everybody, welcome into the Irish NFL show. We are delighted to be joined by not just a current NFL player, but arguably the best safety in the NFL. No bias there, as a couple of Broncos fans sitting here, but we're delighted to welcome Justin Simmons to the show. Justin, welcome in, man.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks so much for having me.
Justin, it's an honor to have you on the Irish NFL show. Welcome in. We ask everybody this, whether you're a player or an analyst, Justin. Any Irish heritage? Have you ever been to Ireland before?
I have not been to Ireland. It is on my bucket list, but I do have a little bit of Irish heritage. My mom, I don't know the exact percentage. I want to say like 10, maybe 15%. So I have some Irish in me.
I think you're going to have to bring your mom to Ireland to do a discovery trip, Justin. And you've got 4 tour guides now who can show you around. But great to have you on. I suppose if we take you back a couple of weeks and you're the best safety in the league and you're an even better person. That's what George Payton said to you after signing the new deal. You're a winner of the Pop Warner Inspiration to Youth Award, 2-time Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. Can you talk to us a little bit about, what inspires you to be such an incredible leader on and off the field?
Yeah, it's really just people, youth, and just how I was raised. I mean, those are all the things that inspire me. I've seen so many, and especially our youth. I'm just sitting here thinking, and so many conversations that I had, and the growth that I've seen from like our youth in general, and just the leadership qualities that I see from so many young boys and girls, and it just like. We're especially talking about off the field stuff. It just makes me want to be a better version of myself, like every single day, and like just go to bat every single day to help them achieve the goals that they want to achieve. And so it's really not even anything, that I do, but just like, hey, I have a temporary platform that is the NFL. And I want to make sure I'm stewarding it to the best of my ability, so that not that I can, and of course I'm going to do everything I can for my family, but not that I can just bring only myself and my family up, but I want to make sure that along the way that I'm helping as many as these kids as possible. And it's just so easy to go to bat for them and to help them reach their dreams and their aspirations every day. And then on the field, it's for the same purpose, right? Just for my teammates. Like I see how much work and effort, my teammates or just anyone in general puts in and onto the field. And I don't want to be the one that's, letting my guy next to me down, or letting the offense down, or, letting the special teams down. I want to make sure that if it's up to me, I'm gonna keep raising the bar, right? And I think that's just like the beauty of the NFL, is because everyone's athletic, everyone's talented, but at the end of the day, preparation and mindset are like the 2 biggest factors into, what really propels, individuals, but most definitely a team as well. And so I'm just looking forward to building that, man, with Denver. And I think it's going to be something special here.
Justin, we're 3 weeks away from the draft, and I suppose as the days go on, we see the amount of scrutiny that's on each player, the pro days, all the media, the hype that comes with the day and the night itself. Can you just take us back to your day, your experience in terms of just the lead up to the draft? Did you feel you would have went sooner than the 3rd round? Was there any other team outside of Denver that you felt was, I suppose, close to picking you potentially?
Man, I honestly, like, I'm sitting here thinking back, and I had so many meetings with, so many different teams, and I met like GMs, I met head coaches, and I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't know when I'm going to go. Like, I didn't, I know a bunch of teams, are saying, I played for BC. We didn't have a great year. Our defense is really good. But yeah, nothing about you really 100% sticks out. I guess we'll see how you do at the combine. And I had a really good combine, and then, went to go to a couple of places and try. I just remember that whole process being just like super hectic and just like, honestly, like scary too. Like you just like, you don't know what the future holds. And I guess it's a little bit different maybe if you're a top guy, you're going, but like, a guy like me, I'm just like, man, I just want a chance to go to training camp. And, I don't really do all these, the combine testing and the IQ tests with the defensive schemes. And I just want to go play football, and I know that's how almost everyone is when they're doing all these combine stuff and they're doing interviews with GMs and stuff like that. But, a funny inside story with Denver, I talked to Denver one time throughout the whole process. And the last team I expected to go to was the Super Bowl champs, especially after watching, what they did to Cam and the Panthers after they set like records of offensive, milestones in terms of that season. And the last place I'm thinking I'm going to is Denver, right? Like Darian Stewart, TJ Ward, the whole no-fly zone. You got Chris, Robe, Akib, even, like David, like Brew and G, like, the guys that are contributing like that, man, there's no way I'm going to Denver. And I had one conversation, and it was just like an area scout or whatever. Like, he said, "Hey, can you make sure your information is correct?" I looked on the sheet. I was like, "Yep, all my stuff's right." He goes, "Okay, thank you." Left. And that was the only conversation I had with Denver. And then, I get that 303 area code, and, Mr. Elway's on the other side, John's on the other side. And, he has that voice, "Hey, Justin, this is John Elway, with the Denver Broncos." And I'm like, oh, shoot. Like, I don't remember the combo after that. So it was just crazy.
They kept their intentions well hidden then, Justin, even from yourself. So that's a good bit of planning on their part. Justin, it's a bit before your time, but Steve Rogers used to be the $6 million man. You, with your new deal, are now the $15 million man, setting a new high watermark for average per year for safeties. Now, it's been a few weeks since you signed the deal, and look, your players richly deserved that new deal. But I'm just wondering, has it had a chance to sink in now what that, I suppose, financial security means for you, I suppose, not just in taking care of your family, but in how you can take care of others, obviously the Justin Simmons Foundation that you've set up in that regard?
Yeah, I think, just so much emotion just over, the whole thing. And I think, for myself, it's, I was just really thankful because I felt like it was rewarding, and just kind of almost put you at ease, because you do put in so much work. And, at the end of the day, we do know we know it's a business. And so I was just really thankful for George and the whole Broncos organization for just rewarding me with kind of the work and effort I felt like I put in over, the last 5 years being with Denver. And so, it was a situation that I think, for the most part, everyone knew eventually was going to happen. I made it known I wanted to be in Denver, obviously. Even before, George got there, John was talking about, how much of a priority it is to make sure that, that I was back. And I was just echoing, like, I want to be back. And we just know there's, business aspects of it that just come with being in the NFL, but definitely like super rewarding. And it's just crazy because you always, just at that competitive nature, you're always finding something that's like pushing you to want to be, better and better. And obviously for me, since day one, we're talking about the big contract and is he really the best? We don't know. Since day one, I came in with expectations like, Steve Atwater, John Lynch, guys from the Orange Crush days all the way up into modern day. There's always been a staple. It seems like in every year, every other year, in safety legacy with Denver. And so I've already come into higher expectations than what the world's perspective of, oh, what can this guy do? And so there's no amount of pressure that I don't think is too much to handle, because I already came into that door, day one with, TJ and Darian Stewart, and then all the amazing safeties that were before them. So I'm just excited to uphold, to do my best to uphold the legacy. And I know what type of effort, that means. And even outside of an individual accolade aspect, just getting back to winning, I know how important that is. And so that's what I'm looking forward to doing and establishing, and something that I'm really be fighting for, these next couple of years, and especially going into this season. And I just know, my family and I are just really thankful, to be back, because this is all we want to know.
Justin, obviously, you just talking about your family there. Congratulations on the new arrival coming in the next few months as well. You had a very busy off season, and one thing that Mark mentioned there was your foundation. You've got it in the background there as well. You do great work with Broncos off field as well. Could you maybe tell us about your foundation? Because I think for Broncos fans, it was only established last year. It is still quite new.
Yeah. Sorry, I did forget about that last part of that question. But no, it is. Thank you for asking. It is. It is pretty still brand new, and just like most things that have been launched within the past 2 years or so, with the pandemic and everything that's happened, it's just been so hard to really execute everything at the level that you wanted to. And I know the launching of the foundation may have seemed kind of off. It's like, all right, everyone's in quarantine, but by the way, here's the Justin Simmons Foundation, and here's what we're doing. And it was weird timing, but it was just at a time that we've really been preparing this for the last 5 years. And the fact that we were finally in a situation where we felt like we were in a good place to launch it, regardless of the circumstances surrounding us. We were really thankful for that. And so we launched the Justin Simmons Foundation. It's almost coming up to a year now. And man, just both my wife Taryn and I's dream to just help our youth. I think you guys heard maybe a little bit of how passionate I was about that at the beginning of the Zoom call, but man, just helping our youth in any way, shape, and form that we can. I want them to, literally utilize us in our foundation in any way possible. I mean, we have big dreams and big goals, and like I said, all that has to be established once we kind of hit the ground running, hopefully with the restrictions of the pandemic starting to ease up and things in that nature. But, dreams, just like whether that's education through sports, anything that we can do just to help our youth reach like equal grounds in terms of things that they want to accomplish in life. And we just want to be, assets in helping with that. And I just know that's so important, because as a young kid myself, I know how important it is for people to believe and trust in you and to give you the tools that you may not have yourself. And I'm only where I am today because of the people that have invested into me. And so I know the power of your words and your time investing into people and into our youth specifically. And that's all my wife and I want to do. And so we're just really looking forward to just the continued growth. And we know that this is like I keep harping on, a weird time for everyone, and a time that we should all be taking seriously. But at the same time, we want to make sure that we are utilizing, to the best of our abilities, everything at our disposal so that we can help our youth, like I said, continue to reach the goals that they have set for themselves.
We can hear, I suppose, the planning, the preparation, and the passion for your off-field work, and I think that bleeds into on-field as well. And you've 16 career interceptions to date, and every year since 2017, you've actually increased the number of interceptions every year. What parts of that are instinct, Justin, and what parts of that are watching film?
Yeah, it's honestly a really good combination of both. Just like off the top of my head, I'm thinking about some interceptions that I had, but like the Dolphins one in the end zone against Ryan Fitzpatrick. A little bit of that is just almost instinct, right? Like, there are a couple times we got beat against the X receiver and one-on-one, situations. So, in that situation, it's just, almost film study, but it's really instincts. Okay, we talked about this on the sideline, come back in the game and just instinctively react to what you're seeing on the field, take away the X, and that's my job. But then instinctively knowing that, okay, if they see me line up there trying to go make a play on the other side of the field, and with it being a short field, knowing the ball is going to be zipped over there, you got to go make a play early and just go for it. And, I know that's that huge saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And sometimes you just got to take a shot in order to win a game. And that was one we were fortunate enough to win. And but then there's other times where it's film study. And I think of the the Patrick Mahomes interception when we played at KC. It would have been not this previous season, but the one prior. It was the snow game, and I'm thinking about when he did like a loop. He started off one way, looped back the other way, and then threw it to the front pylon. And we watch scramble tape all the time with our coaches and other players. And there's one specific play I think that happened earlier on that year when they were playing the 49ers, or maybe even the year prior, and we were watching Mahomes scramble tape, and he did the exact same movement. Started this way, did a spin move back this way, and threw it actually to the back pylon, not the front pylon. But nonetheless, when I saw that movement, my brain automatically in that split second just went to, pylon to the sideline. And I just like left where I was supposed to be and just went over there. And that's just another part of film study that, you just pick up on throughout the years. Like, just thankful for, Coach Vic, Coach Ed, Kareem, Chris, Akib, Stu, TJ. I mean, those are all things you just pick up on, and you learn to bring into your own game, and you learn how to watch film for yourself. But you obviously have to know where you get that, so you can like compartmentalize everything. But yeah, so a little bit, I'm talking a lot, a little bit of combination of both. I can sit here and talk X's and O's all day, but yeah, combination of both.
Justin, last week at the league meetings, Roger Goodell kind of prioritized filling the grounds up again next season, just in terms of having the stadiums full. Just in terms of reflecting on the season that's just gone, both on and off the field, what was that unusual experience like to be playing games in empty stadiums, the travel that comes with the COVID situation, and then obviously just the day-to-day testing and stuff? Is there any stuff you just the key call-outs?
Yeah, it was challenging. I mean, obviously for every team, it's not like it was especially challenging for Denver, but for every team. And I think the teams that have benefited with the same staff and this, almost as much as the same as they had the year prior, I think, we saw, or, had that set leadership in the locker room. I think that we saw those teams almost excel throughout the season. But, just for our team in general, sometimes you're just unfortunate. I mean, we played a game without a quarterback. I think about that all the time. Like, it's still surreal, and it was just crazy. But I think about everything there's a lot, I can only imagine, man. I was in my 5th year, last year, and I'm sitting here like, we're in the middle of the week, getting ready to play a game, and we're talking about like, protocols. And this is where, I mean, we spend an extra 30 minutes talking about travel plans now. And when we get to the hotel, you're not even in your same routine to get ready for the game because you got X, Y, Z restrictions. And so it was a lot. And then not to mention on game day, everyone knows that what makes this game so great is the fact that you have the fans and you hear the booing and the cheering, and you have the opportunity as a player to silence the crowd or make the crowd erupt in your favor. And not having that also was just, I would say, almost like disheartening, because you play the game for more reasons than for fans cheering or booing against you. But you get so used to having it that when it wasn't there, it was just like a wake up moment. Like, man, like this, I don't know, it felt like a scrimmage, or not even a preseason game. It just didn't even feel real at times. And I think that for the first couple of games, it took a lot of guys to adjust to. I know it took myself a little bit of adjusting to be able to go from making a big play and not hearing any type of reaction from the crowd, and self-generating energy and momentum for your own team, and getting your own team excited about big plays that are happening instead of the crowd and things of that nature. But it was definitely a season I'll never forget. One I'll always remember, just in the regard of like what was going on and how we had to just adjust, and everyone had to adjust.
Justin, you mentioned that infamous game of playing without a quarterback. That may have come up for discussion on the Irish NFL show once or twice during the season last year. It's a unique scenario, of course. It's also fascinating listening to you to talk about that, the response you get from fans. I always love the old expression, life isn't about the breaths you take, it's about the moments that take your breath away. And look, I just want to commend you, not only what you do on the field about taking people's breath away, but obviously your contribution to your community and to young people off the field as well, really, I think is commendable in that regard. So fair play to you for all of that work. I do want to bring you to a more prosaic matter, though, which is naturally this year, we're always fascinated a little bit about not just the X's and O's, could listen to you talk about that all night, but the inside part of football, the bit behind closed doors sometimes. And some of that, obviously, you alluded to, is the contractual stuff and the business of the NFL. This year was a high watermark for safeties. We had 3 franchised, yourself, Marcus Williams, Marcus May. You were obviously the only one to get the long-term future sorted out, but of course it was your second year under the franchise tag, so a difficult year for you last year. Is there anything that particularly helped move that this year more so, that helped you resolve that long-term future deal in a really strange year for football and football contracts, more so than maybe the other scenarios?
Man, yeah, I think that's a great question. I think we're starting to see, and maybe at all positions for the most part. I just think it's cool watching the game evolve, kind of almost like before our eyes, and there's still, I think we're starting to see like a unique approach. I think even Vic talked about it, in the press conference where. Even when he started, being a defensive coordinator, it was just like typical, 2 running backs, tight end, 2 receivers, and maybe sometimes you substitute an extra tight end, and if you wanted to go big personnel and run the football or things like that. But now we're starting to see 3 receivers, a running back, a tight end, and sometimes that tight end's an extra receiver. And so, you're on defense, you're going to need. You can't play nickel all game against a really good running team all the time. And so you're going to need, safeties that can do a little bit of both, right? And have the, skill set to be able to cover receivers and those tight ends that are receivers, but also be able to go fit in the run game and to fill, run gaps and to hold your own, and not even hold your own, but go make plays more times than not. And I think that's what, like we're seeing guys like, Marcus Williams and Marcus May and, even Anthony Harris, who I know signed, 1-year deal with the Eagles, and he's a tremendous talent as well. And I just think I'm looking at all those guys, and I'm looking at guys around the league, and that's the trend that, I'm seeing, guys that are like almost like do it all type of guys. And so, in Vic's defense, that allows a little bit more of my skill set to kind of just, diagnose the play, what's going on, and then put not only myself, but like our teammates in the best position possible so that we can execute whatever the offensive formation is being thrown at us. And I think that's what you're starting to see kind of all around. I think teams are seeing the importance of, the safety position, the linebacker position, right? Guys that can almost do it all at the linebacker spot, like Levante David, right? We saw him get that extension as well, but a guy that can, bruise the backs and fit gaps as a linebacker, but then also cover tight ends like Kelsey, or whoever Kittle or whoever else, is, that receiver tight end type of talent. And I just think that's where, we're starting to see like the trend of the game going. And I think teams are starting to see the importance of that, and, not letting guys like, the Marcus Williams and the Marcus Mays walk away, because they are, big assets as a part of your, passing defense attacking game. And I just see that being the trend, moving forward. And so, that's pretty much my 2 cents on it.
Justin, last round of questions from all of us. I'm going to go with this one. As a Broncos fan, George Payton coming in was a big breath of fresh air, albeit surprising to think fans and players at the time. But one of the first things he said in his press conference was that he wanted to get in touch with you. What was your impression of George when he gave you a call? Because he really has acted quickly over these last few weeks and months, and from a fan's perspective, it's been impressive.
Yeah, I was really impressed. And I think what was really impressive on our phone call was like when he called, introduced himself as if I didn't know who he was, but introduced himself and really just said like how excited he was for the job, how excited he was for the culture, how excited he was, and then at the end of it, just said like I know we can't talk numbers, contract stuff, any of that, but just know I know you want to be here, we want you here, and I'm just really looking forward to pretty much like what the future holds. And if you ever need anything, always feel free to give me a call. And he kind of just left it at that. It just wasn't what I expected. If I'm getting a call from our new GM, it's just not the conversation I expected to have. And it was almost like a breath of fresh air, because he came in and just introduced himself and said, if you ever need anything, call me. And it like just left it at that, And so I just kind of figured from that conversation that I already had an idea of the type of person that George was, and that was a guy that I just was excited to work with and to get to know at a like a deeper level, talking about football. And so when that happened, I just knew like I could just, you could just feel it even over the phone. You could just feel the conversation. Like, yeah, this is what we need. This is what we're gonna, And so I was just excited for that. And I still feel that way now, even after being signed and obviously watching all the moves. And I feel like you could tell, man, even not being in the building, like just something just feels different. And I'm just excited for that. And I'm like I said I said it on my press conference, like I wish we could start tomorrow, because I'm just ready to go, so just excited.
Well, that's music to the ears of Broncos country, definitely. Justin, I suppose it's very obvious that your faith plays a central role for you. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. My faith is it's really who I am, through and through. I think any part of me that is me is just my faith in living an experience. And I would say even the not so good parts as well. But I think that's what's so great about faith in general is and especially in a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, is like even through my imperfections, it still just leads everyone back to the cross. And I think that's what is just really beautiful about it is I don't have to live to a certain expectation or a certain standard. I can just be me, and like I said, and through my imperfections, I'm still able to lead people to the one that is perfect and the one that laid it all on the line, from what I believe, for just everything that we go through in our sins and everything that's going on in our lives. And so I think that's the most freeing part about it is I'm glad that there's people out there that are kids that look up to me as a role model and things in that nature. But I know I'm imperfect, and I know that without my Lord and Savior, without our Lord and Savior, there would be it just wouldn't be the best. And so as thankful as I am for kids that look up to me, I know there are going to be times where I disappoint, where I let down, where I may say the wrong things, where I may do the wrong things. And even through that, to still have that relationship with Christ is all I want to be able to point people back to. And it's just what I grew up on. And I've always been the type of guy that I'll never beat anyone over the head, like, with my Bible or, bring out Bible verses, this, that, and the other. But it's just so me that it's hard for me not to talk about, just hard for me not to talk about it and to bring it up, because it is just who I am and it is my life. And it's just what I love to talk about and love to do. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate you, asking that.
Justin, you touched on obviously joining the Broncos at a time when they had a star-studded defense, and obviously following the footsteps of great safeties, John Lynch, Brian Dawkins, players like that. But is there any other safeties in the league at the moment that you, I suppose, look from afar and kind of admire? And then when you were joining the league itself, was there any players that you aspired to be like, any safeties that you felt you were similar in your play against how they play today?
Oh man, yeah, we could talk about safety play. I feel like all day long. In terms of like guys that I looked up to, growing up, I'd say one of one of my favorite players was Brian Dawkins, and I love just watching how like passionate he was, about the game and how he just approached it, right? And I'll say, a guy that I've watched, very similarly, Ed Reed, and just how passionate he was and how he was just so like his mentality was just so about go getting the football, very similar to, guys like Charles Woodson as well, like just football production, like that's all it is. That's all, and watching them and their knack for the game, and then as I was transitioning from almost like, college to the league, Eric Weddle's another guy that I just feel like, I wouldn't necessarily say underrated, but maybe underappreciated in terms of his skill set and what he brought to the game and how productive he was at every single year in terms of what he brought in, what he produced, his value for film knowledge on the team. And so those are some of the guys that, I love to watch. And then in today's game, I could just like, I feel like I could have my pick, right? Like it seems like every team, there's like a top safety, you could argue that is, what they do for their team and around the league. And that's what makes them, one of the best at what they do. And, guys like Eddie Jackson, Tyrann Mathieu, Minka Fitzpatrick, Buda Baker. There's just, I feel like I could talk on and on and on from a list of perspective of like playing safety, knowing what's being asked, and then watching them execute, and not only execute their job, but setting up, their teammates to make sure that their team defensively is doing, the best that they can do on the field. And so it feels like every week, when I'm watching film, I always have a good safety to watch and like learn from and pick up cues from. And so I don't know if there's any I guess like specific one guy, but just like the multitude of guys, like I said, seeing the game transition to the value at safety. I think there's multitude of guys that like I just like watch and like almost like look up to and like learn from, from a week in, week out basis. Obviously not to mention Kareem being, one of the biggest assets for me. I mean, the fact that selfishly so happy he's back because I know how important it is to have, someone like him, right across from me. And it's almost like an extension of myself. Like I don't even have to worry about what he's saying or doing. I know he's a step ahead of me, and I think vice versa. So having someone like Kareem too at my disposal, from a not even from a football perspective, but just like a brotherhood that we've established. It's just been great.
Justin, we've been fortunate enough to talk to some great coaches, including Wade Phillips back in the day as well. But I kind of listening to you, I almost want to just have X's and O's about safety play with you and safety film to watch with you listening to it. It's fantastic. One final question though, Justin. Look, obviously end of this month, the draft is coming up and it's prominent on fans' minds everywhere around the place. Now, don't worry. Not going to ask you to play amateur GM. We know George Patton has Denver more than covered on that. But just in the tradition, really, of game recognizing game, I'm kind of wondering, are there any players you've seen in the college game, whether at safety or other positions, that you are, excited and looking forward to them coming into the NFL and showing their potential?
I don't know if there's any specific players that like I've kind of watched and just really looking at like, oh, where are they going to end up? I know in the first couple of years in the league, that was where I was at, because especially when I was watching my alma mater play, because a lot of those guys, like I just grinded out with for the, previous 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is. And so, guys like, John Johnson, who's now with the Browns, or Isaac, who's, with the Giants, like watching them and all year long, and like, oh, I used to be really into it, like, oh, they could go here, a corner's here, and this team, I need a safety, so he might go here in the second round, and so I used to be really into it. And for the past couple of years, I've really just been like, I wouldn't, not a fan, because I know there are fans that like do mock drafts every day, and I definitely don't. I don't do like my own mock drafts, but really just like I like to just like watch and just be almost like at the surprise of it all. And so I wouldn't necessarily say that there's any one player that I watch. I definitely do appreciate, like when you're watching the playoffs, like I appreciated watching good secondary play, right? Like guys like Surtain at Alabama. I think he's just a heck of an athlete. There's guys like Marco Wilson, who is just a stud player. I've done drills and workouts with his dad, and he's just an amazing coach. And I was just like, and then just as like almost like as a family friend, watching his combine stuff. He put up ridiculous numbers, for a corner, and you talk about athleticism and speed and strength and all that stuff. It was just crazy. So that's the type of stuff that, like I love watching, almost like the process. And there are a couple of guys that, like I may have on my radar in terms of like, really wanting to see like where they go, where they end up, what system they might fit into, and things in that nature. But I don't think, specifically anything or anyone specific, especially from a Broncos perspective.
No.
I haven't really paid much to.
No, fair enough. But I mean, there might be a few new first-round quarterbacks for you to pick off next season as well. So then that might be interesting.
Hey, there we go. That's always something. Breaking down film at the college level of who we might go up against. That'd be great.
Justin, I think it speaks a lot about yourself when we've just been chatting away for nearly 40 minutes. We massively appreciate your time. I know me and Colin will definitely wish you the very best of luck this season as Broncos fans, but I think we all would, and you're more than welcome to come on the show anytime. Very, very best of luck in this hopefully more normal off season, and the best of luck in the AFC West going forward.
Yeah, thank you guys once again so much for having me on. I'm glad we got this worked out. My mom was on top of me, Colin, so she made sure she called me every 30 minutes today, making sure I knew made sure I knew I was getting on, because I can't, I plan so much that I just forget what I got going on. So I just am so thankful